Hey, and we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from beautiful downtown Blue Ridge. We're at Sycamore Crossing. I love this cool mountain mornings, but it's Friday, and what that means to me, it's time for Friday Night Lights, and I love high school football. Team FYN Sports will be all over the field, but right now this morning, I want to give a shout out to Broken Bull, New Blue Home and Gift, Quinte, the Peruvian store, and Tupelo Tea. What a great place, Sycamore Crossing. And I'm here with Dr. William Whaley. Ask the Doc. How are you, sir?
I'm great. No mandolin player and no tea yet.
Yeah, no, nothing yet.
No, all right.
Not yet.
Okay. I want to. The last thing that you said before the break was that this missile North Korea launched passed over Japan.
Japan,
for
yeah.
2 minutes.
Yes.
And it's an intercontinental ballistic missile. Okay. By definition, that would mean that it can go from one continent to the next. It went 2,160 miles, which says it can reach Guam. Now, to be intercontinental, they keep shooting them. They keep shooting them in the eastern direction. To get to the next continent, they got to come all the way to North America. But if they went the other way, you realize where they could go? From instead of going into the Pacific Ocean, they could be in London, they could be anywhere in Europe. So those North Koreans have picked us to be mad at, not the EU, not anybody, not anybody to the west of them, just us. And that's a point we need to think about.
That South China Sea, that Asian peninsula, China wants that.
Yeah, and the other thing is, 2 minutes over Japan. Have you driven across Japan in a train or a car? It's a long way. So that thing was flying at 1,800 miles an hour or something, which again is almost be able to get it into space, or I think it has to go into space to get up that high. So we began talking about this a year ago, like they were shooting Scud missiles back at Israel in the days of the Gulf War, and they were 160-mile missiles, and they were pea shooters and stuff. They're in the big time now. I mean, this is the big time, and I think you say, how are we going to treat them? Well, maybe we're going to treat them like we treated Iran and get us a bunch of paper. Maybe we're going to treat them like we treat everybody else who puts water in our face and calls it rain. I don't know, but I'm scared. They make me very uncomfortable.
Well, the thing with North Korea that just really concerns me, when I say concerns, I don't like to use the word fear, but something has to happen, and he's determined to make something happen, and what is the solution? And I, for one, don't believe China and Russia are really trying to help solve it. That's me.
No, we'll move on to medical stuff, because the reason I said Iran, we always have this thing in our back pocket that Israel will get our ox out of a ditch with Iran. And if they go too far with building nuclear stuff, Israel's going to go in there and maybe using our airplanes and some of our intelligence, but Israel will be the hammer. We don't have a hammer. We don't have a hammer. China's not the hammer. Russia's not the hammer. Japan's not the hammer. South Korea's not the hammer. There's no hammer that we've got around North Korea like we have around Iran. That's not us. There's no Israel for Iran.
Well, Iran's another subject, but let's go to medical.
We'll get to questions. All right. Now,
all right. What do you got?
I want to pick up is my wife, who's the conspiracy theorist. About 2 years ago, told me that the community, the spy community, had these rays that they could shine at you that would make you go nuts, or that could control your thoughts, or all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like the guy with the little aluminum foil hat or something like that. What do you know about the Cuban disease and afflictions of the American and the Canadian diplomats?
Oh, okay, go there.
All right.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that story.
25 to 30.
Like a sonic boom that they...
It's a little more complicated.
Right,
than that.
it is.
This is not
I'm glad you brought that up.
This is not a small problem. Number one, it's gone on now for 11 months, which we've just learned about it in the last few weeks. The number now is up close to 30 American diplomats and or embassy employees who have all suffered over time the same or similar perceptions that they may be in their bed or their workspace or somewhere in private, and they have this huge sound that comes out of them. It's been either crickets or wah-wah-wahs or what. They can't describe it the same way, and they step a foot away to get away from it. It's totally silent. So it's like you got up from this desk, and by the time you got to the control board, it had gone. And rather than just being nasty noise like they shot at Noriega listening to the Beatles or whatever it was, this has caused decreased hearing, cognitive dysfunction, motor neurological things that do not clear. So 10 or 11 months after having this noise, some people are still deaf. Some have cognitive dysfunction like delayed concussion symptoms, and nobody has any idea what it is. Now, to make it where it doesn't seem like it's just totally a bunch of kooks that are sitting around the same coffee table like some people used to say the Desert Storm syndrome was, or fibromyalgia is, or whatever. Canadian diplomats who are very friendly to Cuba, not unfriendly to Cuba, have had the same thing. Well, I don't claim to know what it is, but it's real, it's serious. National Institutes of Health is looking at it, the FBI and the Canadian Mounted Police are looking at it, and one of these days we're going to learn something strange about it. Well, it's a medical thing. See, they got cognitive dysfunction.
Well, I thought former President Obama normalized relations with Cuba. I thought we were okay there. So.
Well, you can go there, I guess, but you're still going to get.
Now don't drag me down these roads and then.
All right.
Our first question this morning, and I really like this question because E. coli. How can I tell if food is contaminated? How can I tell if it's contaminated? Is there a way?
No. How'd you like that? No.
That's it?
All right, yeah, that's it. Okay, this is the biggest area of foodborne illness that we have, and we've discussed this many times. I think the simple thing is to start with travelers' advice. When we tell people that are going to be going to South America, Central America, going to be going anywhere in Asia, going to Mexico, you don't eat a fresh salad, you don't eat anything that's not steamingly cooked, you don't eat a vegetable that you can't peel. You wash that vegetable, you're going to peel in the solutions that they give you to clean vegetables, because you have to assume that everything that's grown in the ground in underdeveloped countries has E. coli on it. You've got to assume that most things that are grown in the United States have E. coli on them. Well, where does E. coli come from? It is the most common organism in the human gastrointestinal tract, in the chicken gastrointestinal tract, in the cow and the pig gastrointestinal tract. So when you read these things in Consumer Reports about their testing of supermarket chicken, supermarket fish, and they then culture it, it's not 0.5% or 5% of poultry that has E. coli on it, it's 70, 80%. So you have to assume every time you go to the market and you buy chicken that's raw and you take it into your house and you slap it down on the cutting board and you chop it up and then you're going to fry it, bake it, or whatever you're going to do with it. It is crystal clear on what it tells you. Eating raw or undercooked fish, chicken, fowl, whatever, is associated with foodborne disease. Assume that every piece of chicken you buy in the grocery store has E. coli on it. And then when you finish chopping it up, you got to take the cutting board, you got to take the knife, and you got to take your hands, and you got to clean them before you put the salad up there. And then you got to wash the lettuce, and you got to wash the tomatoes, and you got to wash the celery, because you have to assume that they also are contaminated. So just about everything that we purchase and eat in our own country has such a high chance of having E. coli on it that you've got to assume that it all does.
So when you're cooking, preparing your foods, and there's not a way to actually look at something at the store or visually smell it to know it's contaminated, but we need to assume it is and treat it that way when we're preparing food.
That's correct.
100%.
For example, they tell you steak, of course, it's only the surface. But ground beef, it's all the way through. And that's why they tell you, don't eat a hamburger that's not at least medium cooked so that it's hot all the way through. If you eat a medium rare hamburger and it had been on the surface when they ground it up, it can be alive in the middle of that hamburger.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah, I like a medium rare.
I just thought, oh, that just changed my perspective of something.
I like a medium rare, too. I brought it right home there, huh?
Yeah, you brought it right. You brought it right home.
French fries are safe.
Now, the steak is the top. French fries are safe.
Yes, yeah, steak's safe because you have taken the side. Now, if you have taken, listen to this very carefully. If you have taken a fork and you have stuck that fork into the raw steak or into the steak before it's been heated on the surface, then you can carry the E. coli from the surface into the center, and then if it's medium rare or rare, it can still be alive in there.
Okay, let's move on. This goes a different direction, but this is something.
We don't want to get any more diarrhea, so let's go to something that's going to save our life, not give us diarrhea.
All right, what are electronic cigarettes? Are they safer than the conventional cigarettes? And that is a big thing, electronic cigarettes. Are they safer than conventional cigarettes?
Well, the basic answer to are they safer than regular cigarettes is definitely yes. But that's not licensed to say that this is a thing that you ought to be encouraging people to use, other than the most hardcore cigarette addicted person who has been adequately tried in more conventional smoking cessation programs. The recommendations really are that the nicotine that's in a electronic cigarette is as powerful or more powerful than the amount of nicotine in the cigarette that you bought at the filling station. And the use of electronic cigarettes, particularly in young people who are using them that don't smoke, they now get electronic cigarettes, taking a nicotine hit off of it, and they haven't ever used cigarettes, is associated with emergency room visits for high blood pressure, heart attack, tachycardia, because the nicotine dose is powerful and high. And nobody knows what the long-term effect of all of the things that carry the nicotine. It's ethylene glycol, which is antifreeze. It's different types of oil-based stuff, propylene and everything that you're inhaling into your lungs. And the life of the nicotine's, what do you call it, vaping now is only about 5 or 6 years long. Now, particularly in Europe, where things are a little better studied than they are here, you know, you can vape with stuff you buy any place. In the really hardcore tobacco addict, if they switch over to using the electronic cigarette, it almost never takes them totally off the cigarettes. But it may lower them from 2.5 packs a day down to 1/2 pack a day, which in the overall benefit from all of the junk that's on the regular tobacco is of benefit. But the fact that they're safer doesn't want to tell you, go let the kids start smoking them, and you're better off, people who are reasonably addicted to tobacco, going through the conventional smoking cessation programs where you've got support groups, you know, you've got the nicotine patches and the nicotine gum. They have a drug, Chantix, that lowers your desire for nicotine. You're a lot safer if you aren't getting the nicotine boost from that cigarette, but if that's the only way that'll do it for you, use it. Okay, so because I went into a vape shop one time because I didn't know anything about them. I wanted to know how it worked, so I went in there and I asked, you know, I looked at all the e-cigarettes or whatever they are, and then they had all of the juice or whatever it is. The stuff, yeah. Yeah, the stuff. 90 different flavors, almost like almost like Tupelo tea in there. Yeah, but the thing is they had a non-nicotine and a nicotine. So you can get it, it doesn't have nicotine, so I guess. So I don't know a whole lot about it. If you get the non-nicotine, the person who's tobacco addicted won't use it, and it won't be used to diminish their smoking because they're not getting the nicotine hit.
Well, listen, I'm really not interested in cigarettes. I'm not interested in electronic cigarettes, but I don't want people to talk about my cigars. As long as we don't go there, we'll be safe.
We're fine.
All right?
All right, good.
Okay, now I have this last question, and this is interesting because I have friends that, well, let me just get to the question. Does grape juice, because we've always heard red wine has benefits for your heart. So does actual grape juice offer the same heart benefits as red wine?
I love the question because
You won't dance as much, but
Paul Harvey used to advertise Welch's grape juice.
right.
And he used to advertise it as having the same, and listen very carefully, because Paul Harvey was right on. It has the same antioxidant properties as red wine, which has nothing to do with the beneficial effects of the red wine upon the heart. Because where people talk about wine and the heart is that evidence that 1 or 2 modest drinks per day lowers the incidence of coronary heart disease. That effect is the alcohol effect, not the effect of the antioxidant in, oh, and by the way, it's only purple grape juice, not grape juice
exactly.
not grape juice that has been dyed.
Exactly.
Much grape juice you buy is actually white grapes that they dye purple. So you got to really get to the label and know that it was purple grape juice. Now, so to answer the question, it has the same antioxidant property as red wine, but not the same protective property to the heart. And lastly, it has been shown that the antioxidant properties of these things is 0 compared to the use of statin drugs, which we've discussed many times. So people think, okay, I'm going to drink 2 glasses of wine a day. I'm going to get the 4-ounce glass. I'm going to do exactly like the American Heart Association says, and then I don't need my Lipitor, or I don't need my Crestor, or whatever it is. The answer is no. The alcohol benefit would only be added to the benefit that you get from the cholesterol drug, which is way up here. So you get your first benefit from the cholesterol drug, a little bit more from the alcohol, and you get hardly nothing from the grape juice.
But
you get a big one from jogging, though.
But the benefit of grape juice is there for the
but it's awfully tiny.
No, but it's not the same comparison when we're talking about the same benefits. So
right,
it's
right.
the antioxidants in the
antioxidants
red, grapefruit.
in purple purple grape juice equal the antioxidants in red wine, but the benefit of the red wine for the heart's not the color.
There's so many people out there that's really excited to hear that the benefit of the red wine is the alcohol.
That's correct.
Don't want to gloss over that, right? That's the benefit of it. Whoa, all right. So I've been missing out on that benefit all these years. Maybe if I looked at it as a benefit, I would think it.
I don't. You know, there are guys like Ray. You know, that you can say, Ray, you ought to have a little bit of wine. You know, I don't want to prescribe wine or alcohol for people who don't like it, or who have any reason that they think they shouldn't for any ethical, moral teaching, or who makes them feel bad or anything else. But I also want to give permission to the people whose mama told them they shouldn't drink and who like a little sip of red wine every once in a while. It's going to bring me to the next topic here in a minute that I wanted to get to before
we're
we
going
ran
to.
out of time.
Yeah, no, you're going to.
You know, I got time. So
all right.
Anyhow, so let's move forward to the idea of the pregnant woman not drinking.
Okay.
Because this is really important, and this was just published this week, and it again came from a European study. Everybody knows this. When I went to medical school on a research fellowship in obstetrics, and I did research in OBGYN for 5 years. And we used to give women in premature labor IV alcohol to stop the labor. So alcohol was a therapeutic agent to diminish premature labor that we were using in the most scientific obstetrical academic institutions in the country. And in that next 7 or 8 years, not because of that, the kids with the funny looking eyes and the kids with the funny ears and the mental retardation and so forth and the small brain size that is fetal alcohol syndrome began to be recognized. So I graduated from medical school in 1966. Fetal alcohol syndrome was recognized between then and the mid-1970s, and that's when the admonition, don't drink at all, came about. And it's been there then for 30 or 40 years. So the question was raised, what happens if you allow somebody to have 1 or 2 alcoholic beverages a week of reasonable size? Is that safe? And I think the general bias and consensus was, before the trial was done, gosh, that seems pretty reasonable. It's not much alcohol, 1 or 2 drinks. Well, it turns out it's associated with a 25% increase in prematurity and a 20% increase in small birth weight and smaller heads. So just a tiny dose of alcohol during pregnancy, which many people have said over the last few years without any data probably is okay, is not okay. So this is the first time you've heard it. It's like the Zika you heard from back, you heard it here first. Well, you'll hear about this really quickly, I think. So this says the pregnant woman should not drink any alcohol while pregnant. There. Now, does that mean she can't go to somebody's wedding and have 1 glass of alcohol in a whole 9-month pregnancy? I'm not going to get into that, but the conclusion was, and I'll come back to this again in a minute, conclusion was there is no known entry point for safety, meaning that up to here it's safe and above there it's not safe. We used to use the same argument about radiation exposure when you are around sources of radiation. That's why we wear the radiation badge in medicine. Well, that radiation badge in medicine over the 50 years I've been in it has gone from a dose like this when I first started down to a dose like that, because what we've learned now is there is no safe dose of radiation to be exposed to, period. Now, it's acceptable to get some chest x-rays and CAT scans when that benefit of the test is outweighed by the hazard of the test, but there really isn't a safe dose of radiation, and there appears to be no safe dose of alcohol for pregnant women.
Okay, well, we heard that here first, folks. No safe dose of alcohol for pregnant women.
There you go. Write that down so you can get it on the Facebook.
Dr. Whaley said it. Put it down. Put it out there. Okay, Dr. Whaley, at this point, and we're getting close to 8:45, but we still have plenty of time. Is there anything that in the medical field out there, or anything going on that you've been keeping an eye on that you want to share with the viewers this morning?
I really do. The hit of this whole day is your pet of the week, right? That's the big thing about it.
Oh yeah, that's my week.
That's
yeah,
a big deal.
I can't wait for my
pet of the week. Sam, you got to listen to this. Pet of the week. All right, now there was I have a pillowcase in my house that our housekeeper got, says sleeps with dogs, because my dog I've had 15 years starts out the night under my arm like this, and at 5 o'clock this morning when I got up, was over there Jane's side, cuddled up to Jane. There was a study published yesterday about the effect of letting an animal sleep in the bed with you versus sleeping in the room with you. Okay?
Okay.
So
this is a good topic.
This is a great topic.
Yes.
All right. So what they did was they put monitors on the dog and monitors on the owner that measured sleep quality and movement and so forth. And you have a 20% reduction in beneficial sleep and an increase in involuntary movement when you're dog is in the bed with you, regardless of what part of the king-size bed he's in, the dog has the same kind of monitor on him, and he gets the same quality of sleep and the same amount of motion, whether he's sleeping in the room on the floor or in the bed. Now, if the dog's in the room on the floor, you've got the 20% better sleep. So the fact that we let my dog in my bed means that my sleep is 20% less good than it should be, but my dog's going to stay there.
Well, Sassafras has her own king-size bed at the foot of my bed.
Well, you're getting good sleep.
And I say, Sassafras, get in the bed, and she goes to the foot of the bed, gets in her bed. So.
All right, so you're getting the beneficial sleep.
But the
and
difference
you tell
is,
everybody Sassafras getting better sleep
yes,
too.
but every once in a while, I wake up, and Sassafras's snout is on the side of the bed saying, I think we need to talk. I wake up. Wake up.
Well, for that amount of time, your sleep's not as good.
So I understand that. So hey, some people like to have their dog in the bed, and I understand it, and they got little dogs, but it does reduce the quality of the actual sleep you're getting.
It does.
Okay.
I hate to admit it, but my dog's still there.
Still there. Well,
so the cigars are still there too. So we got two sins here we're admitting to.
Well, our dog sleeping with our dog. Whoa. Okay.
All right.
All right. Anything else?
That's enough.
That's it?
Yeah.
Are you going to work today?
Yeah.
All right.
You want to know about the bleach and the chronic lung disease and the nurses and the housekeepers? Because I don't want anybody to know that one.
Yeah, well, then
okay.
Wait a minute.
All right.
Yeah,
Sam, I know you guys who spend a lot of time cleaning use various cleaning products, bleach and Pine Sol and everything else. And there are some people who are so compulsive about cleaning that their exposure to those things every day is close to a half an hour or an hour. They did a study in nurses in Europe, and they took 55,000 nurses, so that's not some small number. And of that 55,000 nurses over a period of 10 years, and none of them had chronic lung disease, 600 of the 55,000 got chronic lung disease. And when they were sorting out what was about it, your husband smoke or you live around a coal fire, the thing that they discovered was that group that got the chronic lung disease spent 2.5 times more time in their day using bleach, Pine Sol, and cleaning materials, which tells me that you shouldn't spend so much time keeping your kitchen clean.
Can I ask you a follow-up to that?
Yeah.
Recently, I was visiting my mom at her house, and she was cleaning the bathroom down where like my bedroom is when I come home. And I walked in there, and I almost passed out, and she was in there just like it was normal. Do those folks build up some sort of dependency? Or not dependency, but
no, they get used to it.
Used to it?
And their eyes don't water, but they're breathing it, see?
Right.
And if they do that many years, it increases the incidence of chronic, they'll make them cough, they'll have chronic lung disease. So tell her to open the windows, ventilate, and quit trying to be so clean.
Okay, all right. I got to get the All-Star panel, and I haven't seen them. They're world travelers. So I got to hear what's going on in the world. They're going to give us our international report. We have an international report coming up. You enjoying the truck?
Yeah, I love it.
You love the truck?
Yeah, I still haven't learned how to work everything.
Okay, that's fine. That's the challenge of the day, new butt.
Right.
So glad to have Dr. Whaley with his tab, and I'm happy to say my doctor brings me some cigars. Thank you very much. You have a nice day. Ask the Doc. We want to thank Georgia Cancer Specialist for this segment and Dr. William Whaley for being with us. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to start an early segment because they're here. I'm ready, and the band is back together. All right. So we're gonna be on right after this message. These messages. The political all-star panel, Rick and Bruce, are back. I'm a little nervous of what they have
until the pet comes.
They've been rehearsing by themselves for 3 weeks. It's like I haven't been this. I don't know what we're getting until the pet comes. Pet of the week. Take us out here, Richie.